Tea. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome. This is We Read Books presents We Watched Movies.
Bow, bow, bow.
Yay! This is a special episode where we are going to talk about the movie adaptations of the books we've already read.
It's a blessing and a curse to see the thing that you read and loved put on the big screen.
We've got some winners and we've got some losers.
Yes. So yeah, we're just going to be covering the books that we've read up until this point. I don't know if we'll do this for every grouping, but we'll see.
We'll see. And you'll find out eventually.
You're right.
If you can never get one of these again, you've got your answer.
Right. Basically, you'll find out when we find out.
That's right. We're making zero promises ever about anything.
Never make a promise, never let anyone down.
That's right. We are keeping expectations low.
At least medium.
At least,
but,
yeah.
But low.
Low medium. Smedium.
On a simmer, if you will.
That's exactly right.
Oh, goodness.
Okay. Also, you can visit the socials. We've got Instagram at We Read Books Pod, TikTok at We Read Books Pod, and our email, wereadbookspod23@gmail.com.
Whoop, whoop.
So...
Oh, and I guess we should introduce ourselves.
Oh, right.
This could be the first episode you're listening to. If so, hello, welcome.
Welcome. That's Whitney.
And that is Maddie.
Yay. And we're here to talk about some movies.
Yes.
So I guess to catch you up to speed thus far, we have covered number 1, Pride and Prejudice.
Excellent.
Number 2. Well, we read Verity, but there's no film for that.
We're not disappointed about that.
Yeah. I feel like at this point, if there is a film, won't be watching.
Unless with the expectation that it's going to be a laugh.
Because if the book was boring, I can imagine the movie will be too.
You'd have to turn it into a game.
Ooh. Our third book was Discovery of Witches, and that is not actually a movie, it's a show. So we watched the first episode of that show.
Yes. The other episodes costed money, so...
That's right.
The first one it was.
Yeah, I understand that they're doing that so that they can hook you in.
Yeah.
And then you'll pay for the subscription so you can finish the show, but...
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of... Don't be such cheapskates.
Right. If you're gonna put it on Amazon, make it part of the Prime subscription.
Exactly.
Don't make me go subscribe to AMC or Shudder
Whatever
or whichever one it is.
Yeah. Come, get it together. 1984 was our fourth book, so we read 1984. It has a film that came out in 1984.
It was cool because, and I guess I could have saved this for later, but I'm going to tell you now. It was cool because at the end of the movie, there was a line where they said that it was filmed in the setting and in the year that the book was intended to be set in, which I thought that was cool that they intentionally did that. You know, they shot it in the same place that the book was set.
Yes.
In the same year, so...
It makes you wonder how long, like, that filmmaker was, like, contemplating that.
Yeah. I
Like,
wonder that, too.
That he read 1984 when he was in high school, like a lot of people do. And then he's like, you know what? I am going into filmmaking someday. I'm going to make this film in 1984.
Yes. If you don't, you miss the opportunity.
Yeah, you have one chance.
Yes.
To do it.
I will say that, you know how, like, when you're watching a movie on streaming and it'll say, like, sometimes it'll show the year that it came out? Mm-hmm. It said 1985, and part of me thought, one, that's inaccurate, right? Mm-hmm. But even if it wasn't, I mean, as long as it was filmed in 1984, I think that's perfectly acceptable. But
yeah. And
I don't know.
I think it was filmed in 1984.
Yeah, it just maybe
And
didn't get released until 1985.
potentially, yeah.
Either way.
But we're going to count it as 1984.
Yeah, and you get points.
Yeah.
That is a point-worthy effort right there.
I agree. Our next book was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So obviously, we have seen that film many times. And to round out today's coverings, we're going to talk about The Hobbit. Amazing book.
Yes, the book is quite amazing.
We will save our criticisms
For later.
for later. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
We actually did like a movie marathon and watched these two films together.
We did. It was fun.
It was super fun, and both films were a real win, actually.
Yeah.
So.
I think we did talk about the film a little bit in our synopsis, but I don't mind repeating myself.
I think intermittently we talked about it.
Yeah. The book was so good, and truly the movie just made me fall in love with it even more.
Yeah.
And I love when a movie can enrich what you've already read, like deepen the things that you felt for the book. So
yeah.
I thought this one was such a win. It was just so spectacular. I loved it. The acting, the everything.
Everything was so good. I think particularly the score of that movie is just so lovely.
Yeah.
And I can hear just that song and it makes me like feel like I'm at Longbourn. So, which is exactly what you want in the score of a film.
Yes.
You know, you hear the Lord of the Rings intro, the Star Wars intro, Harry Potter, all of them iconic, and I think this film's score is the same.
Makes you feel something.
For me.
Yeah. I think that one is another one of those. I know it's not a big, grand movie necessarily, not like a Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, but I think that one would be especially cool to do the viewing with the orchestra playing at the same time.
Yeah.
I think it would make it very immersive.
I agree.
I think that would be super cool.
Yeah. And it's such like a... It's a comfort watch for me. I think I've seen the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice, which is the 2005 film. I think I've seen that movie like 10 times probably. Yeah. It's like a comfort watch. For me.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. Now, I didn't watch the miniseries, but you have.
I've watched the miniseries a couple times. Colin Firth plays Mr. Darcy, and I love Colin Firth. I'll watch him in almost anything.
Me too.
So it's excellent too.
That's
I
awesome.
think there are some things that the miniseries maybe did a little bit better, but it's 6 hours long, so of course.
Right.
But I think
they made the best out of the extra time. They didn't waste it.
Exactly.
Good.
They didn't waste it. I think the main thing that stands out to me is the actress who plays Lydia in the miniseries. I prefer to the Lydia from the 2005 film. She plays that like silly inability to read the room.
Just more convincingly?
Yeah, she played it better than in the newer film.
She did kind of feel like purposefully ignorant. Like it was like she knew it was appropriate, but she was going to do what she wanted to anyway. Whereas I feel she's written more so that she is just completely unaware of other people.
I think that's
so I see what you're saying.
It's like the essence of Lydia is that she's not a malicious character. She's just 100% in her own world and just disregards the cares or needs or wants of other people because nothing else matters. So she's just, that's
it doesn't
Lydia.
even occur to her.
She has no concept of like manners or anything else. Like it literally is not a thought she's ever had is to consider someone else. And I think in the miniseries that actress just plays that very well.
Cool. Very cool. I definitely need to give it a watch. I almost bought it at V-Stock the other day. It was only $8. I don't know why I passed on it. I think it was because at the time I had a subscription to Hulu and I thought, oh, I'll just go watch it on the thing I already pay for. But I just canceled my subscription because my shows are done for the summer. So I think I'm going to have to go back to V-Stock and buy it now.
Yeah, highly recommend. And Colin Firth plays a perfect Mr. Darcy. I mean, I think Matthew McFadden, who plays in the 2005 film, also a perfect Mr. Darcy.
Oh my gosh, he made me melt on the inside.
I do think in the Keira Knightley film, Matthew McFadden, I do think he has more of a...
Era appropriate? Well, no, Colin Farrell's pretty...
He looks very...
Or Firth, I said Farrell. Those Collins.
Yeah, Colin Firth does do, like, period work very well.
Yes.
I just felt like Matthew McFadden, it just... He feels more like... handsome to me. Mm-hmm. I think Colin Firth is incredibly handsome, but for some reason...
He just has a something about him.
Yeah, he just has a little something about him.
Yeah.
And more like, I don't know. Because Darcy in the book is supposed to be like very, very handsome. Mm-hmm. And when I see Matthew McFadden, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Checks out.
Yeah. Approved.
Yeah. I guess maybe when I see Colin Firth, I think of him older.
Yes, I think that's it. Absolutely.
Even though at the time of the miniseries, he was young.
He was the appropriate age. Just we've
Always,
probably originally experienced him as older than us.
Exactly. Like old enough to like be
a parent.
He's like between my parents and my grandparents.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's what I think of Colin Firth. Mm-hmm. But Matthew McFadden seems like he's my age.
Right.
Even though he is probably
also
my parents'
older.
age.
But I know exactly what you mean. There's just certain actors that, I don't know, you're like, yes. And then other ones you're like, you're attractive, but there's something you can connect to with him even more so than Colin Firth.
Which is so funny because like, when I think Brad Pitt is probably close in age to Colin Firth, but when I think of Brad Pitt, I do not think of him as being so much older than my parents.
Yeah.
He's like almost 60.
Oh my God.
I know. But when I think Brad Pitt, I think of Tyler Durden from
True.
Fight Club.
Yes.
That's hands down my favorite movie of all time is Fight Club. And
it's a good one.
I mean that when I think Brad Pitt, I think Fight Club.
Yes. So true.
Or Legends of the Fall when he has the long hair.
Yeah.
That was probably like the first swoon I've ever done in my life. It's like got the long hair on the horse, and I'm just like... Oh.
I don't know if it was... I've always attributed that movie to being sad, so I didn't watch it much.
My mom hates it because she's like, everyone dies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so?
And do you see him?
The hair? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
When it's kind of in a ponytail and it's a little bit coming out of it.
Yeah. Not
doing it for you because it's really working for me.
Right.
Fun fact, my cousin is named Tristan after Tristan from Legends of the Fall, which is Brad Pitt's character.
Nice. Like specifically named Tristan because of that character, not just... Oh, their name's the same. No, it was chosen.
Yes.
For that reason.
Specifically, yep.
Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But.
Is that what they cut? Like, is it like a joie de vivre? Like something about someone that's just.
Yeah, I don't know.
I do not know French, so I don't know what that translates to, but I just feel like that's one of those words people use when someone has a something.
Has a certain something you can't name.
Yeah.
It's the joie de vivre.
Yeah.
I think Brad Pitt is probably the definition of joie de vivre, in my opinion.
I think he is for a lot of people.
Yeah, the epitome. And he's like also funny, which is kind of like, why is that fair? That you
too many traits.
Yeah, why? why are you all so funny?
Too many desirable traits in one person.
It's unfair. Like in the new movie with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum, like what is that? Lost City?
Yes.
And he's only in it for a little bit, but she's like, "Why are you so handsome?" And he's like, "My dad's a weatherman." Hilarious. That's not an explanation, but it works.
I feel like it was a big surprise for people too when Chris Hemsworth, who plays Thor, came out and like did SNL and like started doing funny things. People were like, and he's also funny?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And he can also sing.
I haven't heard him sing, but of course he can.
Of
course he can.
That's so annoying. Like, get out of here.
And he's like the fittest person on the planet as far as like he literally does any, it seems as if he does like any and every sport activity on the planet. He's just killing me over here.
I know. It's the height of annoying.
Right.
I mean, that's like, we were talking about Ben Barnes the other day.
I was going to bring that up.
He's arguably, in my opinion, like one of the best looking actors. He just has the face.
He's got that thing.
And he's a really good actor. And he's also a musician and sings. Like he plays the piano, which I think to me the most attractive instrument that a man can play is the piano. And he plays the piano and sings. And I'm like, I hate you.
The piano is a very romantic instrument, isn't it?
Yes. That's probably why I'm like really drawn to it more so than because a lot of people give a lot of hype to like guitar players.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I was going to say guitar player is kind of a big one for a lot of people, but.
Oh, he's a guitar player. And I'm just like, listen, sure. But you know what? The piano.
Play the piano for me and then we'll talk.
Yeah. Listen, all bets are off.
Right.
Get those keys going. Especially if you got Ben Barnes' face.
It's so true.
It's disgusting, really.
Yes.
It's disgusting. And he plays the Darkling, too. He, also plays the villain.
Yeah. He can play a very convincing good guy and a very convincing, very manipulative, but also still very like suave, alluring bad guy.
Yeah, exactly. It's annoying. He annoys me so much.
Enjoyable and annoying.
Ben, quit it. Just knock it off.
Just stop. But don't. But stop.
No, I mean, I'm going to consume it all, but it'd help the rest of us if you stop. You're making us all look bad.
Right. Before we move on, we will mention Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies as well.
Yes.
The longer I've had to consider, because I actually saw Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies before I read the book and before I watched the other film. And in comparison, it's a fail. Not a fail. It's not a fail. I'm sorry, that was too harsh.
It's just a different level of movie.
Yes, it really does. Although I think that the actors that were chosen were really well casted, I think that you do miss some of the emotion. And that's not to say that they didn't play the emotions well. I just feel like the added stuff kind of takes away from that line in the film. For me, anyway. But I enjoy the extra action. I think that the fighting stuff is especially, a cool thing that they added in, that rather than them not having a governess being a thing that like was kind of held against them, it was more so that, or in this it was, they trained this form of martial arts and not this form. Yes. And the ones that were taught this way were like, deemed very wealthy and well-to-do, and then these other, the other people that did the other training, well, they obviously didn't have as much money, but they believe that training was actually better combat training. It was just, it was a fun, like, little added
I
separation.
I thought it was enjoyable. I'm trying to look up I know this won awards. I just need to find them. I thought that Pride and Prejudice and Zombies was really interesting. And I became even more interested when you said that Matt Smith was in it.
Oh my god. But the other actor who plays Mr. Collins does also an incredible job. Like, they both.
Yes. I feel like I might have been biased in favor of Matt Smith because I watched House of the Dragon and I loved him as Daemon Targaryen.
He's just so, like, extra cheeky and, to me, a bit more attractive, so then I feel less bad for Elizabeth's friend who marries him.
Yeah.
When it's Matt Smith, you're like, yeah, but it's Matt Smith.
It's Matt Smith.
So it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like the Wickham in Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies is, I mean, obviously I saw it first, so that's how I pictured him, but just he really is just so smarmy. And the other guy just kind of has a sweeter face, and I don't believe him being that type of person as easily.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the point. You aren't supposed to look at him and go, oh, no.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the Wickham. I want to say Willoughby because Willoughby is from Sense and Sensibility. Wickham is so much greasier.
Yes. Ooh, yes, greasy.
Yes. It's like the hair, and his hair is dark. I can't remember if he's supposed to be a blonde in the book. I've read it so many times, but
and he has that, like, big chiseled jaw.
Yeah, he's very
that
Gaston.
whole yes.
So yeah, and the Mr. Collins in the mini series is very similar to the Mr. Collins in the Keira Knightley film. Like, the way they look, it's very similar.
Yeah.
So the way that they had him act that part in the 2005 version, oh my god, it's so unhinged. It's perfect, Mr. Collins.
It is.
So when I read Pride and Prejudice now, that's who I, like, picture as Mr. Collins. The haircut, the hat.
Haircut.
It's also the way he talks. Like that weird speech pattern.
Yes.
Nailed.
Yes, it is nailed. I'm sitting here still feeling guilty that I called PPZ a fail. It's not a fail.
No,
it just didn't.
It's a fun one.
It doesn't capture the same feeling, but or completely. But I still think it's so great, so fun, and it like the essence is there. It's just it doesn't go as deep for me. Yeah. But
it's a fun movie, and
for sure
I would rewatch it for sure.
Oh yeah.
Also, interestingly, Bridget Jones' Diary is a Pride and Prejudice retelling.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Which is, you've never seen it? Oh, Colin Firth plays
I was gonna say
Darcy. And there's like one scene where he's wearing like a Pemberley shirt.
No, he's not.
Yeah, it's
that's so cute.
I really like and there are like sequels that I've not seen and don't care to, but the first one, and the book is good too. It's like epistolary, kind of like journals.
Oh, okay.
Her journal entries. But yeah, Bridget Jones' Diary, it's a fun movie, and of course I'm forgetting his name. He's a British actor. He's in Hugh Grant. He plays the Wickham character. His name isn't Wickham.
Okay.
But he plays the Wickham character, and he's like her boss. She's like works at a TV studio, and he's her boss, and he makes like really inappropriate like comments to her all the time about like her ass, and it's gross, but she's like into it kind of.
Yeah,
so,
I was gonna say from the outside, I always thought it was like a love triangle movie. So yeah, I had no idea that it was like kind of a Pride and Prejudice adaptation. So
Yep.
that's very interesting.
And Colin Firth plays like the Mr. Darcy character, and he's a lawyer and like a family friend or whatever. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's like a fun, like, it's got the rom-com vibe to it, right?
I'll have to give it a try. I don't do a lot of rom-coms.
Yeah.
But there's certain ones that hit an extra note that like make them good
Yeah.
for me. But
Yeah. I don't know that there are rom-coms that I will watch more than once.
yeah.
But when Dakota's out of town, oftentimes I will watch like really sappy Hallmark films and just like, I don't just,
Yeah.
feel it.
There's just a handful that I'm more of a action thriller, mystery movie type person. But every once in a while, like I always, whenever I think of like good rom-coms, like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days always comes to mind.
That's a fun one.
Just because the actors, the story is kind of different. I mean, you still have they meet, there's conflict, they break up, they get back together,
Yeah.
But at least there's good acting, there's humor in the, there's a little bit more than your basic formula, and it's interesting enough.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and I know like a lot of people will comfort read like romance novels or smut, which is not like my gig. But yeah, when Dakota's out of town, watching like sappy Hallmark films is my gig.
It's just
because I don't like to watch thrillers or horror films whenever I'm gonna sleep in this house by myself.
Heck to the no.
So and they're just like, you know what?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't do that either.
I'm gonna peruse the Hallmark channel. So yeah.
I like to listen to like thriller things during the day. That is not something I would listen to at night or alone.
Yeah, it's just, and especially like this house is like old and it's got so many like spaces and rooms, so it's just it's not cool.
Heck no.
But
no. I support this choice.
Even with the dogs, it's just like I'm not gonna.
It's a smart choice, not instilling yourself with fear.
Yeah, so
a good choice.
That's either I watch CrossFit and eat a shit ton of food. I will tell you right now, there is almost nothing as satisfying as getting takeout from all of your favorite places at one time, make all the stops, and then come home, spread all of it out, and then watch a 2-hour documentary about the fittest people on earth and watch them work out.
While you eat whatever you want.
That's right. I mean, usually my go-to is like mushrooms from Siki and sushi from Mint and ice cream from Andy's and maybe another like dish in there,
like an appetizer-y sort of,
of thing, or like a full carb. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's, and some peanut M&Ms.
I need to add this sort of routine to my life.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would watch CrossFit people, which I do watch CrossFit people sometimes, but I don't know if I want to watch a documentary while stuffing my face.
Yeah. It seems like it would make you feel shitty. Mm-hmm. It does not.
Well, that's because those CrossFit people are constantly eating.
That's right. They are constantly eating.
Yeah.
And
makes sense.
That's the good thing about CrossFit and like those documentaries specifically, like The Fittest on Earth is, and they're all kind of a variation of that. The Fittest on Earth, Fittest Next Gen, whatever. It follows the pros. Mm-hmm. And we watch it every single year. Mm-hmm. Every year the new one comes out, we watch it.
Nice.
And there's just something about that specifically that doesn't make you feel like you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like a lot of fitness docs.
Yeah.
Just make you feel terrible. You're like, God, I'm just over here. This is horrible. But for some reason, watching those CrossFit documentaries does not make me feel that way.
Good. That's awesome.
I don't know. It could just be me.
No. I mean, we've watched videos. I can't remember his last name. Will something. He does like fitness challenges and stuff on YouTube. He's really funny. But he adds like good fitness tips in there, whatever. But like sometimes he'll do like food videos. And whenever I watch a video of someone eating, I'm immediately like, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So I get it. I do.
Oh, yeah. All CrossFit. The new film for last year's CrossFit Games should be coming out soon, like within the next month or so, I would say.
So get on it,
Keeping
people.
my eyeballs on that.
Yeah.
There are a ton of them out now.
Nice.
So if you're interested, they're usually free on either, you can find free ones. The newer ones are not, but like the older ones you can find on Amazon or Apple TV,
Cool.
I think. And YouTube, of course.
Nice.
So.
Cool. Speaking of fitness, Discovery of Witches.
Discovery of Witches. I mean, it kind of tracks. She's an athlete.
I was going to say Diana is a very fit woman.
She's an athlete.
So the show, first episode.
Yeah, the only one we watched.
They threw a lot in there, even though it's a show and they have room to breathe. They did throw a lot of information at you that I feel they could have just let naturally unfold. But they threw it at you.
I agree.
It wasn't bad, you guys. I think the show itself is probably fairly good. But for me, because I'm a nut and I'm a little hyper fixated on this type of thing, like when a show deviates a lot from the source material, that's all I can focus on. Even though the production of the show is actually really nice and well done, the actors are doing a pretty decent job, or at least the main ones are. But those deviations from that main plot or characters doing things that I'm like, I think that's against the rules, right? Like, I just...
Yeah.
It irked me to the point that I couldn't fully just enjoy it.
I agree. I think that the cinematography is done really well. It looks great. They make Oxford look amazing.
They do.
Which I'm sure it's very scenic anyway. So, but I thought they cast... I really enjoyed Diana. I thought she was cast really well. Miriam and Marcus. I also... You only see them a little bit.
Yeah.
But I thought they were fine. I didn't love who they cast for Matthew, personally. I felt like he needed to be more handsome.
And I actually thought they casted really well. I think he's handsome, but I also think he just has the air about him that Matthew exudes. Like, he's the type of person that I imagined when reading Matthew. Even though they were like, oh, he's so attractive. I didn't picture the most attractive man in my head. I just kind of, I don't know how to describe it. I just...
Yeah, no, I get what you
mean. I pictured more of his, I don't know how to describe it, but when they're like, he's super hot, I don't just like think of an actor that's super attractive. I just try and kind of take personality traits, and him being, is he British? English?
He's French.
French, yes. Okay, sorry. God, guys. It's been a minute since I read the book. I'm really sorry. But yeah, just him, just him being, French and just like his personality traits. I don't know, just looking at the actor they chose, like my brain went, yeah, that works for me. But I've always thought that actor was cute. He just has a way about him.
Yeah. I have never seen him in anything prior. I just pictured Matthew as larger, being more, having more of a stature to him. And I do think that the actor had a movement about him that felt like Matthew would move, like a grace. Because I feel like I always assume that vampires and anything are really graceful. Yeah. So I always picture a sort of like fluidity to the way that they move. And I feel like he was able to do that. I just felt like Matthew is larger.
Yeah.
Has a more imposing kind of stature.
Yes, I do agree that that would have been a good trait to cast.
Yeah. So that was my main kind of like couldn't get over.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Matthew's bigger though.
Yeah.
Matthew's larger than that. But
they did emphasize his like height and size a lot. You're right.
So that was like my main issue, and he just looked a little regular.
Yeah, I get that.
But,
I get that.
But casting is really the least of this show's problems.
Yes. Like, and as much as I like the actress they chose for Diana, I didn't care for the things they made her do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, they made, so her and, is it Jillian?
Yeah.
They made her and Jillian, like, friends rather than just acquaintances or colleagues. Like, you know, Jillian, in my mind, was more of a person that, you know, was also like, wink, wink, I'm a witch, come to the thing tonight, you know, but they weren't friends or friendly, not someone she would confide in. And they kind of have her confide in Jillian how she feels about magic and using magic, and that just...
And I think it was implied that that's kind of, like, dangerous. Like, for her to talk about magic outside of Aunt Sarah and Em. Like, it seems like they always kind of, like, kept that really, like, close to the vest.
Or at least she did.
She did, and yeah, she did for sure. And so even though, like, Jillian knows that Diana is a witch, it's not something that in the book Diana certainly would not
but she
give any of that away.
So she confides in her about that, and then she also goes and has a drink with her friend from the library and is like telling him about her parents' death and how people killed them because they thought they were witches.
Yeah, which is actually a conversation that she has with Matthew.
Yeah.
So there's really no reason that they needed to add that scene, because later on she has that conversation with Matthew.
And she's having this conversation with a human. I understand she's not saying, I'm a witch, but I feel like it's just a no-no in general to, like, even allude to connection to witches and magic with humans. So it was moments like that where it just felt like, oh, you're doing this to tell me information you want me to know, not because this is a good facilitation of the story.
Right.
Is how it felt to me.
Yeah. Like they were trying to info dump without info dumping.
Yeah.
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 I agree.
And I meant to say when we were on Matthew, I did like at the end of the episode, like when he was like, you know, he was all like predatored up or whatever. His hackles were up for whatever reason.
At the rowing place or whatever.
And, you know, he was kind of like, you need to go now, walk, do not run. Like, I thought he did that predator kind of taming himself thing very well.
Yeah.
So, which wasn't a complaint of the book. We just felt like we wanted to see more of it. So, like, seeing that in the show, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The show definitely, and I didn't watch any farther than that.
Yeah,
but
I didn't either.
It definitely, like, has an opportunity to convey that he is as, like, dangerous as it's claimed in the book.
Yeah, like, you could see, they showed you his stalking of her and watching her from afar and all that stuff that we felt like we kind of had to miss out on because we were more focused on the story from Diana's point of view.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a plus, but the stuff with the book was fine, but then they added funky little magical hiccups, and then her magic was quote-unquote, like, she did it accidentally rather than intentionally refrained from, just only used, you know, when she had to.
Yeah.
And then the parts that felt cheesy and like a sci-fi show, don't get me wrong, I love sci-fi. The channel, they've done some cool stuff, but also just sci-fi as a genre in general, I love it. But the part where you see Knox, like, recruiting Satu, like, and then having that meeting with Jillian and whoever that other lady was, that just felt, again, like, corny, and we're just plugging this in so we can tell you who these people are, like, rather than letting it unfold in the story. I don't know. That part kind of annoyed me as well.
Actually, whenever it gets to the scene where Peter Knox goes to the woods and he's like recruiting Satu, I was so confused.
Me too.
Like,
it's like, what is this?
Until he like addresses her as Satu.
Yeah.
I was like, who is this?
Yeah.
We never went to a remote cabin in the woods.
No, we met Satu when Diana met Satu when she was snatched off the ground.
Yeah, like towards the latter part of the book. I was just confused.
I'm sad that I didn't get to see Matthew's mother.
Yep.
That was a miss for me. But oh, and then the other thing with Marcus, he's like walking with a friend and he gets hit by a car and dies, and then Marcus tries to turn him, and it's this whole thing, and then him and Matthew have a fight like, why didn't you tell me that we couldn't turn vampires, da da da. Again, it was one of those moments that it felt shoehorned in because they wanted to tell you something rather than just tell you as the story unfolds. Like, I just felt like the scene was unnecessary with the friend. And to me, it didn't really fit Marcus's character as I knew him. Like, he seems more even-keeled, and so he didn't really fit for me, and I can't really say why other than maybe it was that moment. I was like, that's not Marcus for me. But
that scene was so unnecessary. It was so poorly done.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been so much better to just wait
until they did the blood test
they did the blood testing. Yeah. And when they literally tell Diana that the reason that they want Ashmole 782 is because they're looking for answers.
Yeah. Yeah. And then another thing that I just remembered, her and Jillian being friends, it's going to be a whole lot harder for them to explain away her just like going, oh, you killed her? No big.
Right.
Before it was like, yeah, she was an acquaintance. She kind of got on my nerves and was a little pushy.
Yeah.
You know, not to say that she said any of that in the book, but you know what I mean?
Implied.
Like, it would, and it's sort of like, you know, she threatened me, like, you know, she sort of understood it. But how are they going to explain that away? Yeah. They're friends. She confides in her.
Yeah. And if they're friends, what could possess Jillian to threaten Diana? Like, why would she whisper in her ear in the library about her parents being killed by witches? Like, why?
Yeah, she
would a friend do that?
Yeah. Now, she does rat her out, and I could... Yeah. That at least seems motivated by fear of the coven and or other witches or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't think about that either. It's like, so when are you going to threaten her, and how is that... I mean, is that just going to be like a villain turn for you then? Like, how are you... Or they'd probably have Knox do it.
Yeah.
In the show.
Which is lame, because then what's the motive to kill Jillian?
Right. Yeah. And obviously haven't seen it, but just from the first episode, we just, I personally just see a few bumps in this road that I'm not keen to continue.
Yeah. I haven't literally thought about it at all. So if that says anything.
Yeah. It bothered me while watching.
I found it irksome during, and then as soon as it was over, I was like, beep, all right, let's go do something else now.
Right.
So, yeah, I agree. So, unfortunately, but you know what? It must be doing okay, because all 3 of the current books in the series are now in the show.
Yeah, good.
So, it's got all 3 seasons.
Good. I heard... And I don't remember where, so maybe I shouldn't even say. But I heard that they wrap up the 3rd season. Because I don't know if there's supposed to be more books, but I heard that they wrap things up differently than the books or something.
Well, that's a real downer.
But I'm not sure. Don't hold me to that, guys. I just remember hearing something about them wrapping it up a little differently. I don't know if it's because they're done with the show, but the books are still going to continue. I feel like that's what I heard, but this is literally off the top / random far reach in my dome that I don't have a full grasp on. So take it with the tiniest grain of salt.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I will never understand why showrunners make those kinds of decisions.
Yeah.
Like, Brandon Sanderson obviously has a TikTok, and obviously I follow Brandon Sanderson. But he has like a few TikToks where he talks about movie adaptations and how and why certain choices are made, because you can't adapt straight from page to film because some things from books simply will not work
Right.
on screen, which I think all book readers understand.
As long as you do it well,
Yeah.
in a way that makes sense. We get it.
Yeah, there's an overall essence that you just simply have to capture.
Right.
And I feel like my rule of thumb when I'm watching like a book to movie adaptation, if they're taking things out, I accept it. Like, there are just certain things that when you have, especially for films, there are just things you can't fit in.
Yeah.
And everybody is going to understand that.
Yes.
And that's why they can keep the two mediums separate.
Yes.
One doesn't have to affect how you feel about the other.
Yeah.
But when you add things that are not in the book, that is always a problem.
Right. Because you took things out because of time.
Yes.
But you added something else in its place?
Right.
No, thank you.
Yeah. I never appreciate that. Never. When they change a character, no. When they add a scene that was not in the books, no. You automatically lose me when you do that.
Now, if you're combining multiple scenes into one, so you restructure something, maybe. Yeah. Let's see how you do it. Yeah. But don't just add extra for cinematic sake. Like, I'm not going to appreciate you for that. If it's not going to be true to the story, I don't want it.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's where you have a lot of missteps in, like, in Discovery of Witches. I think that's why this episode in particular, obviously, I don't know about the rest, but it suffers because they're adding things that were not there. So then it confuses what you know about this overarching plot.
Right.
So, and I think Game of Thrones suffered from that. Yeah. Heavily.
And I feel like there are, it's like this, they're assuming you've never read, to me, they're assuming you've never read the book. So they're trying to give you as much information as possible. Right. Whereas the next one we're going to talk about, 1984, I feel like it's to your benefit to have read the book. I don't believe that you have to have had read the book to understand the movie. But they don't do a lot of explaining. Yeah. It just, you see and experience the things that are going on, and that is meant to be your understanding. Like, if there are movies that people think there's incredible amounts of exposition just to catch you up, I don't feel like 1984 does that at all. You get it in context and moments of the character writing in their diary or kind of speaking in their own head, but it doesn't feel like they're like, oh, let me tell you this. It's just, it's part of the story. But, I mean, obviously the movie leaves a lot out because a lot of it is like, from Winston's point of view and in his head or whatever. But it does do an incredible job of placing you in that time and place. Like, you feel the oppression, you feel the looming eye of that mustached face. Yeah. And the screens. Like, when I was reading it, I was imagining like a small old box TV. In the movie, there are these huge screens that are like the size of a wall. And it makes it even more overlooming. And there were some odd changes. Like, they don't explain... Again, like, they don't explain a lot, so you really benefit better from it. But I don't feel like you need to have. But, like, they say that, like, Julia is in the pornography section or whatever. They don't really expand on what that means. And she's not really in the pornography section. Right. in
there is
the
no
book.
pornography.
Exactly.
Because they don't, sex is not.
So
is
I thought that
frowned
was a
upon.
really weird choice. I was
Yeah.
like, well, she's in the. It's not. Is it? Wasn't
It's
called
like-
fiction. But it's she
Yeah.
writes like the place that writes like the music and
Yeah.
the stuff that they give out to the people on the proles to
Yes.
kind of like, I don't know, distract them, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I did think that was an odd choice, but I don't know if they were just kind of going for a shock factor type thing, like just to kind of like make you feel a bit more disgust or something. I felt that was a little odd, but everything else was like on par with the book. And like I said, it just, even if you didn't know all the rules of everything that was going on, like you felt, you really, they did a good job of putting you in the book.
The setting.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing about 1984 as a book is that really, and we talked about this, the main character is the setting.
Yeah.
Winston is really just a vehicle for you to experience the setting.
Yes, true.
So I feel like that would make it easier to convert into a film because as long as you're creating Oceana, then that's 90% of the battle.
Yeah. But they do a beautiful job. Like when they go to the field, it is so vividly colored and it's so bright. And especially near the end of the movie where they cut back between when he's being tortured, it's like black and white to a scene where he's like in his head in that field and it's so vibrant. Like the juxtaposition of those two like scenes, it's so well done. So I thought that was really good. It was obviously like it's just a hard read just in the sense that it's kind of crushing, you know, but they didn't show as much torture, like, you know, and as many people being tortured.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it was a little nicer. Now, there were a couple liberties that they took with the end that kind of irked me. But otherwise, I think it was a very true representation of the book. But so I'm curious about your thoughts on that. But there was one scene that really stood out to me as like really good. Because for some reason, the scene in the book stood out to me too. It was when Winston was talking about meeting that prole woman in that alleyway. And like from a distance, how she, you know, had a lot of makeup and she actually looked kind of pretty to him. But then when he got closer and they got in the dark room, like as he got closer, you could see, you know, the wrinkles and how the makeup was like caked on and all this stuff. In the movie, it almost seemed like an optical illusion. It was really well done because, yeah, it's like the camera kind of does that sort of zoom. Like in this moment, it's like she looks young and pretty, and then it'll zoom in. And as it's zooming, it's like she just kind of transforms. Like you see the wrinkles and the layers of makeup. And it was just a really well done. And that was a scene for some reason that really stuck with me when I read it. And then so seeing it done so perfectly depicted, I was like, kudos, guys. Good job.
Yeah, that's a very harrowing scene,
Yes.
especially because he like talks about her mouth in
Yes,
particular.
yes.
And nothing can cross the line into disgusting like the human mouth.
Yes.
For some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a weird thing because it's like we see other people's mouths all day long, but nothing will gross me out more than like
A funky mouth.
a bad mouth. It sounds really strange,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's kind of like when you say a word over and over and over and it starts to sound weird. The more you describe a mouth with descriptor words, like obviously that's how you describe things, but like the more adjectives you use, the more disgusting it can sound.
Yeah.
Even if they aren't gross adjectives, it's just when you combine them all together, you're just like, ew.
Yeah. And so then when you take it like the step farther and you're describing a gross mouth, it's so off-putting to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I was scarred a little bit when I was younger. I was probably like 19. The job that I had, I worked with this woman And I liked her a lot. I thought she was cool. We worked together well. But she had a full denture plate for her top teeth, and her bottom teeth were all just like in really, really bad shape. And she was only like 30.
Aw.
I think it was drug use in her younger years, just like ruined her teeth.
Yeah.
But she like had surgery and had all of her bottom teeth removed. And so directly after she had surgery, because of like the incisions in her mouth and the stitches, she couldn't wear her dentures.
Oh, no.
Which what was like, obviously this is a health thing.
Yeah.
But she went around to everyone and had them look at her stitches. And I was so disturbed.
No, thank you.
I was like, Sarah, you
must
do not.
stop.
I cannot. I'm so sorry, but I cannot look at your mouth.
Yeah. Well, it's like someone like lifting up a Band-Aid and be like, look at this gash.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm like, I was highly, highly disturbed. And I've always had a weird thing about teeth. Like, bad teeth really give me like that, that tick.
Yeah.
And then, so my whole life I've always had like a teeth thing. And then the no teeth, I was like, I've never been more stressed. In my life. And so the woman in the book just made me think of Sarah. Like thinking of her. And
you're not criticizing her or her, but it's just the act of being, look at it. It's like, whoa, I don't need to see all that.
Just post having all of her teeth removed.
Yes.
And I was 19.
Yeah.
I didn't have a frontal lobe. There's no way I could have been equipped to deal with this stress. As an adult,
Yeah.
But also as an adult, don't show people your mouth wounds.
Right. That's like, oh, you like seafood? There's just certain things you don't show people.
Especially at your work.
Yeah. No one would have criticized her or been bothered had she just, lived life normal. But when you're like, hey, look at this.
Yeah. And it's given me like a little bit of a complex since then.
Yeah.
Like now I have like I've had a reoccurring dream for most of my life where my teeth fall out.
Oh my goodness.
I have this dream regularly.
Yeah.
I haven't had
I've
it in
heard
a while,
of people
but,
having that dream.
like in the dream, I'm asleep and I wake up and my teeth feel weird. So I run to my bathroom and I touch them and they fall out of my hands. I have had this dream countless times in my life.
Sorry.
I know. It's a real complex that I have is the teeth.
Someone would tell you that it means something, but I am not a dream interpreter person. But, the book, I'm sure there's a website out there that would tell you that it means something.
Yeah. So I would never be able to I've always said it if my teeth start to get bad, I will go into debt and pay a monthly payment on teeth. Screw those shits into my head. I'm not going to go with dentures that you take out. I will never look at myself without teeth.
Yeah.
That's
I get that.
Incredibly vain, but I'm scarred.
Yeah. Does it freak you out to your nieces and nephew? Like, look, Auntie Maddie. And wiggly teeth and stuff like that?
Nope. That doesn't bother me at all.
Oh, okay. Good.
Not at all. It's
I would think that would be a thing where you're like,
No, little kid teeth, totally fine.
It's
adults.
Adults. I get that.
So, I've already told Dakota,
Yeah.
when these things go south, we're shelling out the cash.
Yeah.
Because I will never look at myself with no teeth.
Yes. Yeah. Teeth are important. I am very, very incredibly lucky. I never had to have braces. I have not had a cavity or anything like that. So I'm very thankful.
Yeah.
But yeah, if me or my husband need any sort of dental work, it's worth it. Not just for appearance, but for the health of your jaw and your face and your bones.
Yeah.
It's good to have that good going on,
And when your teeth are bad, you are more likely to get actual sicknesses. It contributes to illness and blah, blah, in humans and dogs. So, we always get the dogs teeth checked when we take them to the vet.
Smart.
So, like, April just had her teeth checked last week.
Yeah.
So, the teeth are very important. It's just, I know that people think it's vain when you're like, I never want to have dentures. I don't want to be able to take my teeth out. Like, I know it sounds vain, but I'm sorry.
There are medical reasons behind it as well.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah. And it's just a thing. It's just my thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I get it.
So, now that you all know.
So, I watched the whole movie. Maddie only saw... How much of it did you watch?
I watched from when he's in room 101
to
did? The end.
Okay.
Yeah, so I watched him with, like, the rat cage on his face.
Oh, my God.
I thought because whenever I read the book, it was hard for me to conceptualize how they did the cage on his head.
Uh-huh.
And how they separated him from the rats.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that they did it, like, it was like a tube off of his face, and there was just, like, a door.
Like segmented doors.
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh.
I thought it was really well done. And obviously John Hurt.
John Hurt.
And he's in the next movie we're going to talk about. Aww.
He is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, so what did you think of the ending?
I was underwhelmed, I guess. The chess, I don't know.
So for me, and if the book had ended this way, fine. Mm-hmm. But it didn't.
It didn't.
The book was very specific that he had been completely won back by Big Brother, and he died thinking or saying, I love Big Brother.
Exactly. That's the point, is the hopelessness.
Yeah. But in the movie, which, like I said, if this would have happened in the book, I might have liked the ending a bit better. Mm-hmm. You know, even though I don't tend to like open endings, it would have left you with hope.
Yeah.
Because the movie has him sitting in a room, a dusty table, and he writes 2 + 2 = He doesn't answer it. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of ends with him listening to his own admission broadcast.
Yeah.
And then the movie ends. Mm-hmm. So if you've read the book, you know that his death is coming. If you haven't,
you would.
I'm not sure how you would interpret that.
Yeah.
But having read the book, I'm like, okay, so they're trying to leave it ambiguous, but with hope, I guess, but there really isn't any.
Yeah. And
I just, as much as I hated that he had been won back to Big Brother, I respected the finality of it. And so it kind of annoyed me that the movie didn't go there.
Yeah.
And then also there was a moment when he was being tortured where and I thought it was a cool interpretation, but I'm not sure again if that was the book's intention. He's, you know, that moment where he's with O'Brien and he's telling O'Brien, I love you, I love you, I love you. In the movie, he's saying it to O'Brien, but then all of a sudden the view changes and he's looking at Julia in the field and saying it. So in the movie, it's almost like he's having a hallucination and is saying, I love you to Julia. Whereas in the book, to me, it seems very clear he's saying it to O'Brien because it's part of his reconditioning. He's loving his captor, his torturer. You know, it's much more disturbing almost. So again, I thought it was a cool interpretation. I just didn't think it was completely true to the book. But overall, I would say it was a very good adaptation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think the ending, it was irksome just because it almost undermines the point.
Yes.
Because I think if you read 1984, the point of it is there was no hope from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So if you end it open like that, where the viewer could think that Winston lives out the rest of his life, or maybe holds on to Julia, because he does interact with her in that scene, and he doesn't even look at her, really.
Not really.
Which is true to I mean.
Yeah.
But.
And they don't admit betraying each other, which was a big thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a miss as well, actually.
Yeah.
But the true essence of the book was mostly there. So
Yeah.
in my mind, it was a good adaptation, but I just think that they missed the mark there at the end.
Just fumbled it a little at
Yeah.
the end.
Yeah.
I can see that.
But on to a treasure that John Hurt participated in.
A true treasure.
Harry
Old-
Potter.
Whole HP. It really is. Just, I mean, people like to talk about the problems and the flaws and the acting, and I just don't care about any of it. It's just...
I never had an issue with the acting. The only time I laugh is in the third movie where he's sitting there crying. It's not funny. I'm sorry. He's crying after he finds out about who Sirius Black was to his family, and he's sitting there. He was their friend, and they betrayed him. He was their friend. Like, I was just like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, what happened?
What's funny is that Prisoner of Azkaban is most Harry Potter fans' favorite movie and book.
Yes.
And I find that strange, honestly.
I think it's because that's when things really start to turn in a direction where you're starting to get some answers, some mystery. The mystery is like really gearing up or maybe even unraveling just a tiny hair. But I feel like the first two are kind of contained mysteries, whereas like in 3, it really starts to thread to the ones after. Yeah. That is my guess. And then as far as the movies are concerned, I think people like the tonal change. I found it jarring.
It was a little jarring. I felt like a tone change would have made sense for starting with movie 5. Because that's when that's the true shift.
Yeah.
I agree that 3 does at the end, it leaves you with we're propelling forward.
Yes. And it is a darker story.
It is.
I just feel like the jump was in tone was vast visually.
It was vastly different.
Yeah.
The set was even different.
Yes,
like
and of course,
and all of that.
We had a change in Dumbledore as well.
Yeah.
Not only an actor, but the style that they get. It just there were a lot of major visual changes that.
True.
So, and I think some people prefer that aesthetic. I personally think that Chris Columbus. He's a true treasure, and I just think he did such a good job. I think he captured that essence, that feeling, that warmth that those first 2 books especially have. Like, I just think he did such a phenomenal job, and those movies feel like you're sitting in a cozy room with a lit fire, and I just love it. And then the third one is rainy and cold.
Yeah, it's true. And honestly, whenever I am like in the mood for a rewatch of Harry Potter, I never go for the third one. I either watch the first for like the vibes, or I'll go with 4 or 5.
Oh, really? See, I have to start at 1 and go all the way through. I can't start in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
I will say, to your point of the 5th needing a tonal change, I do think we got one a bit.
I agree.
With, I think his name's David Yates is the director who, I could be wrong about that. But
actually, I think you're right. I think it is.
Because 3 had
David Heyman. There's David Yates and David Heyman. One of them is like the EP, and one of them is the director, and I don't know which one.
I'm hoping I'm right. I could be wrong. Either way.
Dave.
Who cares?
Dave.
But yeah, the third one had its own director, and he made very specific choices that they actually stuck with, like with Flitwick and stuff, but that bothered me too.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I love the third film, but there were just certain things that like were like adjustments for me. And then the 4th one had its own director, but the 5th one with Dave... he did the 5th to the end, and I believe I remember hearing like that like political kind of dramas were in his wheelhouse or were things that he did, and that's really kind of the tonal change that we get is
Yeah.
like it gets more political and all that stuff. So I think he does a great job, and I think it was a good choice to have him do the last
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
But I always do wonder though if what it would have been like if Chris would have done at least the first 3 or 4. I wonder how he would have shifted the tone for the third one, and stuff like that. But yeah, Philosopher's Stone, I don't know, I mean, it's your first introduction, so it really is like your first impression, and I think it is just spot on.
I agree. I think it's a really fun. Obviously, it's for children. We all understand that, but it just feels fun and fanciful and whimsical. And I think that's all you need to really capture what that story is trying to do.
Yeah.
And of course, the 3 main actors are really what you think of.
Yeah.
Ron was a little off.
Punched up the comedy.
Yeah.
But he still had a lot of heart,
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
and they let him show it a bit more in the end
Yeah.
of the series. But
Right. I think visually, obviously, he's a redhead. So, he's a true blue ginge.
yeah,
So,
unlike those twins,
yeah.
I never would have guessed that they were
Me
fake
either.
gingers.
Me either, because it's very, very difficult to
Yeah.
get to use hair color and get true ginge.
They did such a good job. Like that, it was a natural red hair.
It looked like they were born ginger.
Yes, yeah. It shook me a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like,
For
wait, what do
real.
you mean? What? Brunette?
Yeah, that's hard to achieve.
Yeah,
Especially from brunette. It might be a little easier to get the ginge. If
Would
you're
I love to
blonde.
give that a whirl? For sure.
Yeah.
Would it probably look like a pumpkin? Yes. Would I possibly still like it? Yes.
Yes.
But they also probably had professionals, and
Yeah.
you know those poor boys probably had to touch up their roots every
Yeah.
week.
I mean, and like Tom Felton. See, what's really crazy is that they nail the ginge so hard, but then
The blonde.
the blonde was just not blonding.
Sweet boy needed a toner.
Tone that shit.
Can
please?
you give him some like slightly darker roots? Even it would have looked so good. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I'm pretty sure in the book that it's like is it described as like frosty blonde?
I think it's.
Or is he just blonde?
It's like it's called like pale blonde.
Yes, yeah.
It's not described as like, oh, he's mopping.
Oh god. I was like, what is happening?
We have one of those mops that like rings the mop.
Makes sense. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I don't think it describes his blonde as being like white, but it doesn't describe it as being yellow.
Yeah.
Because you get that, like, in like Throne of Glass, for example.
Yeah.
Aelin is like golden.
Yeah.
And Manon is white blonde.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have like golden and white blonde.
Which is funny because on the cover of the books, her hair is white.
I know.
And so that's how I picture her, even though I know that's not right. But I just feel like, especially near the end when he was aging a little bit and his hair was changing, like that poor boy, I just feel like they could have done a better job on his hair color. Like,
I agree.
It didn't have to look like flat straw. Like,
Yeah.
Tom, you deserve better.
And he's like a rich kid.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
He shouldn't look like he box dyed it in his bathroom to spite his parents.
yeah, exactly. Come on. Give our boy Tom some good hair.
Yeah.
Please.
Tom Felton, not Tom Riddle.
Yeah, Tom Felton.
Just in
the
case
actor.
we're confusing people.
In the last film, I think his hair looks the best.
Yeah, I think you're right.
There's like in the very last film, like after like.
Is it just because he's dirty and it looks like he has
I think it's
some
'cause
variation
he's dirty
going?
and he's like disheveled a little.
Yeah.
So it looks better.
Yeah.
But, and I mean, Half-Blood Prince is also a little better because it's like styled.
Yeah.
And he's wearing, I don't know why they have him wear a fucking suit though.
He's a dapper boy this year.
Yeah.
He's a man now.
He's like wearing a suit and carrying a briefcase. Like, what is he, a fucking accountant? Come on. These are wizards. Put them in robes.
Oh my god.
He's not doing someone's taxes.
Maybe that was a other task that the Dark Lord gave him.
It just...
That was the real reason the Malfoys got punished, because he didn't do his taxes correctly.
That's right. The IRS is coming down on him. That was... I understand that, like, in the books, it does talk about them out of school, like, wearing Muggle clothes.
Yeah.
That makes sense, but he's literally on the train to Hogwarts in a full suit and tie.
Yeah. Talking about he won't be doing charms class. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever.
What? Come on, stop it right now,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
With the tie.
Yeah.
You know, whatever though.
It's a spectacular movie. The music is
Come on.
perfection.
Yes, it is. It's literally, it is iconic music.
It doesn't matter how many times I watch it. The second that Warner Brothers logo starts to like swoop up and that music swells, I get an emotional feeling, and maybe, especially in the right moment, I will get a couple little misty tears in my eyes. It moves me.
Yeah.
It moves me.
It's like the child.
Yeah.
It's like not, well, I guess how old was I when this came out? 2001, I was 11. So when the Sorcerer's Stone came out originally, I was 11. I saw it in theaters with my friends. One of our friends had a birthday around the time it was in theaters, and we all like went, it was excellent. Because when you're 11, you don't get to go to the midnight showings.
No.
And I don't think they even did one for like the first movie or two.
I think you're right, yeah.
But yeah, so I remember going, and you're like in the theater, little tiny 11-year-old me. I'm just like, wow. And that's the first time you hear the music ever.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God.
It is stirring emotions in me I did not think were possible.
It was just
mind-blowing.
so great. I think Lauren was there.
Oh,
Probably, yeah.
that's so sweet.
I know. Lauren and I have been palling it up since 4th grade.
I still need to meet my neighbor.
I know. Yeah. Oh, Philosopher's Stone. It's a Halloween film and a Christmas film.
Yep. We always watch it in the fall.
Yep.
We watch all the Harry Potters and all the Lord of the Rings once a year in the fall.
Yep.
Between Halloween and Christmas.
It's the perfect time of the year to watch all of those.
Yeah. I feel like Lord of the Rings could maybe be end of summer. But Harry Potter 100% is between Halloween and Christmas.
Definitely. I just, summer is the worst. So I don't like to place things I love in the summer because I hate summer.
I get it. I don't hate summer. I'm not a fan of summer. I really, and it sounds like the most basic girl thing of me, but fall really is my favorite season. I love the changing colors, and I love the temperatures.
Yeah.
The cooler ones, anyway, when it starts to kind of be that in between. I don't like a lot of rain, I don't want it super hot, and I don't want it super cold. I just want some pretty colors and some in between temperatures that I can wear layers and scarves.
Yeah.
I don't even have to wear the scarves, but I at least want to be able to wear jeans and a sweatshirt and be comfortable.
Fall and winter are very close for me because I also really love the snow.
I love a pretty snow. I don't like driving in it, but I love a pretty snow. Just everything covered, especially when it's fluffy.
Yeah.
It's not icy, so it's like, I mean, icy can be pretty too, but when it's just laid on the ground just right in the trees and the sun glistens, oh, it's beautiful.
I love the snow. So I really enjoy winter, and I like cool temperatures. Like, my max is probably like 68.
Yeah.
If it never breached 70, that's the perfect place for me.
Very true. Now, air conditioning is different For me personally, my house doesn't need to be in the 60s, but the outdoor weather,
Yeah.
that's mwah, yes,
Yeah.
please.
I know, which is why living in the Midwest is I need a place to go in the summer. Like, people like to travel south to the warmth in the winter. They call them snowbirds.
Yeah, we're traveling north for the summer.
I'm a reverse snowbird.
Yes.
I am traveling away from the warmth.
Yes.
It's just, the problem is that
It's moist.
the sun is not kind to me,
Nor me.
and I don't like to be sweaty. It's just not comfortable.
No,
Like,
who
it
wants to
just
be
looks
damp
sticking
all
together
the time?
Yeah.
People who live in Florida, maybe.
No.
Are you guys damp all the time? I feel like you'd be damp all the time.
And the bugs,
I hate the bugs in the summer.
the ticks. Ugh.
Ugh.
See, so yeah, no.
Yeah.
Summer is not my favorite. I know that's like everyone loves summer.
Yep.
I am
Not these girls.
Not me.
No.
I need to be north. I need to be like in Canada during this time of the year.
I would love
or
to
like
visit Canada.
Iceland.
There you go. There you go.
I'm gonna make Reykjavik my summer home.
That would
the
be
capital.
awesome.
I agree. Or like Edinburgh.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty. It might even be more north than Iceland,
Nice.
or at least equally north.
If I never make it there, just please send me pictures when you go, because I know you'll make it there before I do.
It might be next on the list, honestly.
Perfect.
Dakota's been like sending me like reels of just pans of downtown Edinburgh,
Right.
and I'm like,
Why are you doing this to me if you're not going to take me there?
are we moving?
Are we going?
What is this? Because there's one that's like, the shot is from inside a coffee shop, and it's just like the window, and there's just like rain, and it's so dark and moody, and I'm like, oh, why?
Don't tease me.
Why am I from Missouri?
Yeah.
This is a mistake. This was a mistake. I was actually meant to be from over there.
Right.
That's clear. My skin tells the true story.
Yes.
I'm literally like, if I am in the sun too long, I get literal hives, like on my shoulders and chest.
See, if I mean, I get sunburned pretty easily, but more so if I just overheat, if I get hot, I turn into a red tomato. It's not sunburn. It comes from the inside. Other people look, normal, maybe a little flush in the sun. I look like I'm about to burst with lava. I look like I'm swollen and red and sweaty. It's not cute.
I have a tendency to go very red too. But I think so I haven't always reacted that way to the sun. Like,
But hives, that's so painful. I'm so sorry.
and it's just in like on my shoulders and like my chest.
And it's hives, not blisters.
Right, it's hives.
Gosh. I mean, either one would be terrible, but
yeah, because it started when I was like 25, and it's gotten better. I've noticed this year specifically, the couple of times that I've been outside for a longer period of time, it wasn't as bad, but I still like got some.
Yeah.
It's just unpleasant.
It is. Speaking of unpleasant things.
Yeah. Perfect segue.
Queen of the segue.
Right into our very last film to talk about is The Hobbit.
Now, we have a great cast, a great director, a beautiful scenery, but the story just misses the mark.
It does.
We were talking about this earlier when we were talking about Discovery of Witches. Do not add things. I don't know if the things they added are from other texts from J.R.R. Tolkien, but they are not part of the Hobbit story. They threw Legolas in for nostalgia bait. I don't understand.
They really just...
I don't know if it was the studio or Peter Jackson who wanted 3 films, but 3, they could have done it in 1, but they definitely could have done it in 2.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be a trilogy. But in doing so, they gave themselves so much extra time that they added all this extra crap in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
The 3rd one is my absolute least favorite.
And I only watched the first one.
It doesn't get better. Maybe the 2nd one is the most accurate, but even I can't even remember. I have not gone back to watch these. That show, because I love this world. I love the aesthetic. We all know this. I do not go back to visit these.
Yeah.
And it makes me sad.
Yeah.
They could have done it such perfect justice.
Yeah, and I think they totally lost the essence of the Hobbit book. Completely.
Yeah.
They lost
went
literally all of it.
They went too far in the trying to appeal to a kiddish nature. And I'm not saying that they were trying to make it for kids, but like the way that they designed the dwarves and certain behaviors and like jokes, like it felt too exaggerated campy or something.
Yes.
They turned the dial too far the other way.
They did. It's what's so weird about that choice is because the way that they designed the dwarves was so over the top. And the prosthetics, the hair,
they just
all of
looked
it,
pointy and gangly and weird.
They just look so strange, and they did look cartoonish in a way, but the movie around them was not in line with the way they looked. Like, the movie around them was trying too hard to be serious. It took itself too serious. Because the book, The Hobbit, is not serious. It's, like, fun and funny and kind of like...
And it has serious moments, or I don't even know if you call them serious, just like, I don't know.
There's danger.
Danger,
that comes along,
yes.
Right? And...
Or just they're going through trials.
Yes.
But it's still... I mean, you have elves singing in trees and whatnot. Goblins sing. Everybody sings songs.
Yeah, and dwarves stuffed in barrels floating down the river. Like, these are, like, very, like, whimsical, kind of, not silly, but
I was going to say,
whimsical
versus silly. And they just went too far on the silly, goofy side.
With the dwarves.
Yeah.
And then the movie around them is very serious. They were going for Lord of the Rings too hard.
And yet still trying to give it its own tone. But in doing so, they missed the tone for me.
Yeah. I was expecting it to be what The Hobbit was. Fun. Because, reading Lord of the Rings is not fun. Watching Lord of the Rings is also not fun because...
But there is still levity in Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
There's the celebrations and that stuff. Yeah. And they're able to do jokes and have fun moments without it feeling... not to use the same descriptors, but like campy or goofy. Like it feels genuine.
Yes.
Whereas it doesn't feel genuine in The Hobbit.
Right. And that's Lord of the Rings is very special movies and books. And the way that Lord of the Rings is very serious tonally most of the time.
Yeah.
But you get your like whimsy from like the elves and
Hobbit shenanigans.
Hobbits. Yeah. Your hobbits kind of lighten the mood and the elves give you like your little like whimsy.
Or give you a break from...
Yeah. So you get that ethereal kind of otherworldliness in the story from the elves, and then the hobbits bring you into more of like the fun, cozy, lightheartedness, Merry and Pippin, right? But there's still like the through plot that's very serious. Like, the entire world's on the line still. Mm-hmm. But in The Hobbit, you don't have that seriousness, or the stakes aren't that high. Mm-hmm. So it makes it a lot lighter in tone. Mm-hmm. So that's what I expected from the film.
Yeah.
It did not deliver, although I do think that the actor who played Bilbo was perfect.
Martin Freeman did an excellent job.
He was the perfect Bilbo. Mm-hmm. And obviously Sir Ian McKellen. Come on.
Yep.
And they didn't need to add Legolas because you had Gandalf.
Yeah. Exactly. And he was almost like their pursuer. Like, he's their... not enemy, but...
I mean, the elves are kind of like... they capture them at one point.
Right.
So...
Right. But yeah, they have, like, Legolas is not, like, part of the fun. Like, he's chasing them in the movie.
Which is... it's so crazy because in the book, they're not being chased.
Yeah, not really.
They're going toward a goal,
right?
And no one is like chasing them,
right? They are. In the end, then it's the goblins sort of catch up to them, but I don't know that they were in hot pursuit.
Yeah,
it's just sort of like they heard about it and were like, yes, this is a fine opportunity.
Exactly. That's
whereas in the movie they had this rando white orc that we added this backstory.
And the orcs are all like... because the orcs are pursuing them because of Thorin.
Correct. Yeah.
Because Thorin
chopped off that guy's arm.
before the events that we're experiencing in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Which none of this, not even in Tolkien lore. This guy...
he's not in lore anywhere?
He is. This guy's name is Azog. So he is in the story, but he is in one of the appendices to Return of the King, I think.
He's not anywhere near Thorin or his crew.
And he actually isn't even anywhere near the Lord of the Rings timeline. He's even before the timeline of The Hobbit.
Wow.
So I don't know what this... I read his backstory.
Mm-hmm. They probably thought, ooh, he sounds menacing and dangerous and like a cool looking character.
Yeah,
Let's go for him.
He is a creation of Tolkien, but was dead long before the events of The Hobbit, and many of his scenes were invented for the films.
And when you have a amazing book like The Hobbit, and you have these scenes that you can interpret to film well.
Yeah.
And I still think they cut some things out. Mm-hmm. Because even the reason that they capture the elves, I mean, not that I would have wanted to watch the runaround, but I don't remember them, like, chasing lights. I think it's, and it being the misinterpretation that they were trying to attack them. They get captured by the elves for some other reason, I think. But it's been a while. I could be wrong. But it's just, they could have done... just like a one-to-one comparison. They had the time. They were able to stretch this movie over, or this book over more than one movie.
Yeah.
And they decided to do it in 3, and they had to add so much stuff that I think it just distracted from the story itself.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It didn't make any sense whatsoever. And since I didn't watch the other 2 films, I don't actually know what else they changed, but I know you said there's like a love triangle, and
yes, there's an elf that falls for, I think it's either Philly or Killy. He's like in the movie, he's one of the hot dwarves.
Yeah.
Which they are never described as in the books. There's no he's young and hot. They all look the same and have beards.
They're just young.
Yeah.
That's it.
But yeah, so there's a love interest with one of the elves with one of the hot dwarves, and then the Battle of 5 Armies. It's a huge battle driven. Now, yes, Thorin does go a bit mad because of his greed, but it's an anger, and he's mixed up in feeling betrayed and a little bit, swayed by all that gold he's been swimming in, but in the movie they make it seem like the Arkenstone has like corrupted his mind and he's like not himself. And like there's this huge battle and it's so dragged out. It's, oh my God, it's so dragged out. And then it's barely, you don't really get to, and maybe you do at the end of it, but it's just like it's not that like camaraderie of like, okay guys, we were at odds, we got to come together and beat these goblins. Like it felt like a coming together in a tense moment in the book, whereas this was like this big long drawn out thing, and then it's like, oh, I don't even remember if it was like, I guess we'll all fight the bad guys together, or if it just like, and I don't know. And then like how you see the hot dwarf die and the elf is like holding him and sad, and it's just dumb. It made me so annoyed. I know they die in the book. But
yeah.
I don't like it.
I know. I know.
I want you to watch it only simply so you can understand my extreme dislike, but I don't want you to go through that.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll have some time and I'll be like, you know what? Sure. I think the main thought, other than I could not get over the white orc. I could not get over that. I was
one
like,
of those
why is he here? Why? This is silly. Because I looked it up as soon as I like saw him on screen. I was like,
who are you?
what is this? So I had to know, and I looked at him. I was like, oh, you've been dead for 100 years prior to the events of The Hobbit. Sick.
You're a ghost.
You do not exist in this world anymore.
Right.
So that was a huge distraction for me through the entire film. But I couldn't stop thinking to myself, why am I watching this? I should just watch Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Because there's enough of the Lord of the Rings tone that it just made me want to watch Lord of the Rings. I had zero care about what was happening in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'll just pop on Lord of the Rings. So that's never what you want.
No. They just, it didn't need to be 3 movies, and I think it was to its detriment.
Yeah, it was all to its detriment, to be honest. Peter Jackson, ugh. How can you be the arbiter of the best book-to-film adaptation on record? Literally the best. Lord of the Rings has never been outmatched as far as book to film, especially for the fantasy genre specifically. Unmatched. And I will hear no argument from any of you.
So don't even try.
Don't even try. You will never convince me otherwise. So Peter Jackson did them, and everyone's like, this is the pinnacle. This is the precedent. He's on this pedestal, and then he takes over The Hobbit, and he gives us garbage. And so now it's like, Peter.
Peter, why?
You have ruined your own legacy with the same world.
And I want to blame the producers or the company or someone else besides Peter, but I don't know that we can. I need to look into it more, but
yeah, who was responsible? Everyone's to blame.
Yes.
Everyone is at fault here.
I will say I did like the inclusion. Is it in the first one or the last one where you get this sweet little scene with Frodo and Bilbo?
Yeah, that happens in the
first. I thought that was a cool way to start it, just like a little nostalgia pop.
I agree. I thought that was cute, having him and Frodo like interacting and he's writing, and it's like the events right before the beginning of Fellowship.
Right.
So I liked that. It was like that nod.
Yeah.
Which I always appreciate, a good like nod to other things in that like world.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that was added that I accepted.
And it's probably just me. I know that people age, duh. But Orlando Bloom, one, being included in the film when he should not have been. Legolas is not in the story.
Yeah.
But he is clearly older.
And elves don't age, guys. Come
You know, like I said, I know he's a real human being in real life. But
this is why
it was also it was also just distracting to me. I was like, he's clearly older.
Listen.
Looks different. Doesn't need to be here.
So many years have passed between when they filmed Lord of the Rings and when they filmed The Hobbit. Because even though the last Lord of the Rings came out in, 2003, they filmed them all at once.
Right.
So that they didn't have, I think it's probably the aging situation, especially for, the elves. So they filmed them all at once and then obviously just released. So you
edited and released and did all that jazz.
Yeah, so you have 11 years of aging on someone when he was already 20s.
Yeah.
So now he's approaching 40, playing Legolas again. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, it was such a bummer, dude. That was it. Really, it bummed. It bummed hard.
Yeah. At least we got to go back to the Shire.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like it didn't feel the same.
It didn't feel the same.
I know.
Yeah, it just, it was a bummer. I'm trying to think if I've ever experienced a bigger bummer book to film. And I think not. I don't think so.
I feel like I maybe thought of one the other day when we were talking about this, but it's not coming to mind.
Game of Thrones is a much bigger bummer. Oh God, that is a heaping pile of trash. The whole thing.
Yeah. Now, I didn't care as much about it, but I thought Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children or whatever.
Not good.
They changed things that didn't need to be changed, and it just totally missed the mark for me.
I think that's where a lot of these studios go wrong, and I think they get very caught up in making the story fit Hollywood instead of just attempting to actually capture the essence of what they're adapting.
Which is a dumb thing to do, right? Because they chose to make these films or these books into films because of their popularity. So why are you changing things?
I know. It's like they never learn. It's such a weird problem. Yeah. Like you said with Discovery of Witches, how it feels like they created it so that it would be for people, if you hadn't read the books. That's so dumb.
Yeah. I think there's a good balanced way to do it for both.
There is.
And
I think I would probably skew way heavy to cater to the book people. But I mean,
you need to and I will say on the other side of that, for Harry Potter, a thing that irks me is in the last film he has that shard of glass. As a moviegoer, you have no
idea what that
clue
is.
What it is, where it came from, why, and how it works.
You have no idea what it is.
And even as a book reader, if you didn't remind someone, they're going off the story of the movie, so they're also going, wait, huh? Oh yeah, that's the... Yeah. That to me was such you missed both parties almost. You I don't know.
Yeah. It was a very weird move because that's why reading or adapting the book to the film, especially in a series like that where old things are going to come up later.
Yes, there's so much foreshadowing.
The Mirror is a perfect example because they chose not to include that in book 5 whenever it is brought up. And but they have to include it in the last one because how else are they getting out of Malfoy Manor?
Yeah. And they could have retroactively just had him find it in the House of Black somewhere, or in the headquarters somewhere.
Yeah, like when they
Or
go
something,
back at the
and then he
beginning, yeah.
sees someone on the other side, and he's like, oh, I'm going to, keep this. It looks
Yeah.
like Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Just have him find it. Just let us know where the flippin' heck he got this.
Yeah. Or just in the scene in Order of the Phoenix when he's talking to Sirius after Christmas, just have Sirius give him the mirror.
Yeah, or a gift that he doesn't open.
Like in the book.
But my only thought was like, oh, well, maybe they didn't know that it was important. But I feel like even if that book hadn't come out when the movie did, which I can't remember if it had, but even still, it's like you have the writer on tap. Like the writer should have been like, hey, psst.
Yeah. Well, and
Just have him give him a box. Why? It's important.
I believe the 5th movie premiered the same year that the 7th book was released.
Then there was no reason.
It did premiere, I think, the same month.
Yeah.
Because I was in LA.
Right.
And I have like
now, granted, the book
milestones.
came out, or the movie was already made when that book came out. But
Right.
still, like I
But-
said, when you have a whole team that like knows the sitch, somebody's
Yeah.
got to be like, hey, this is important later, guys.
And the writer is an EP on this film.
Yes.
Like, by the time they were filming Order of the Phoenix, the Deathly Hallows book was definitely done.
Yeah.
It was finished.
Yeah.
It was in the editing process when they were filming it. She knew it came back up again.
Yeah.
Someone should have been like, you have to put the mirror in this film.
Right. And maybe she tried, and they were just like,
that's true.
They were like,
That's true.
hush, we don't have time for that.
Yeah, and that's the shortest film of all the films.
Is it really?
Order of the Phoenix is the shortest film. It's the longest book and shortest film.
Nonsense.
Absolute begrudgery.
Ugh.
It's
We could go down the spiraling rabbit hole we were only
will
really supposed to do,
fully spiral.
5 books. But
Full
sorry
spiral.
guys, but
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I wasn't trying to cut you off.
No,
I
know.
I just realized I was like, we could literally do this for 5 more hours.
I know. There's just, so much to be said. And
Yes.
we will get to all of the specifics.
Yes. We can critique something very heavily that we love deeply and
Yeah.
still enjoy it.
Yeah. I think that's the unique thing about being into books, and especially into books that are also a fandom, is you can love and hate something at the same time.
Yes.
That's where you really
Yeah.
and that's one of the things that everybody in every fandom does.
Yep.
They zero in on the minutia of everything, and
We love it so hard.
Yes, exactly. It's it's wild. Every single fandom I've ever experienced. And really, it's like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones are the 3 main ones that I have consumed a lot of stuff on.
Yes.
There's a really great Game of Thrones podcast called Bend the Knee. Mm-hmm. It's excellent. It's so excellent. They really get in the weeds,
Nice.
because since the books aren't finished, you can go everywhere.
Yeah.
And because
And
there's
speculation and stuff like that. Very
there's
cool.
and all the books are so large, and there's so much stuff you can theorize and go here and there and here and there. So that's what they do. And it's when I don't want to listen to a book on Audible while I'm at work, I'll listen to Bend the Knee.
Yeah.
Because I can just listen to it, and I've already consumed, watch the whole show. I've read all the books, so I can just listen
Nice.
to them talk about it.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
wild.
Cool.
It's very cool. You guys, Winds of Winter will be here sometime. So soon.
And if not, I've already decided that Maddie's going to write it instead.
Spoiler alert, if I were to finish Winds of Winter and then move on to A Dream of Spring, you're not getting a Jon Snow-Daenerys relationship. I'm so sorry. I never hated anything more in my life. It was horrid. It was so repulsive.
I didn't even watch the show, and I even was like, oh, guys, I don't know about that.
And at that point in the story, you're already desensitized to like the incestuous relationships.
True.
So the aunt-nephew thing almost felt like a breath of fresh air because at least they weren't siblings.
Yeah, you're like, at least there's some separation.
So
They don't share as much DNA.
yeah, so that
Yuck.
wasn't, that aspect was not the repulsive part of their relationship. I just didn't
Them as
like
characters.
it. I was so confused. And also I'm living in like where the books end.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've never even met. He's not even confirmed to be her relative.
Yeah.
He's still like a bastard Stark.
Yeah.
So in my brain, I'm just like,
Nope.
it's not canon. I reject it. And it just felt so forced. It was like they meet in one episode, and by the end of it, they're like in love.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, they're just like, hey, two hot actors. Let's couple them up.
Yeah. Sick. Yeah, it's just.
You're like, yes, it was sick.
Yeah, I hated it. It made me physically ill.
Yes.
So, but yeah, that's a whole other conversation. We may read some Game of Thrones on this show sometime, but
yeah,
it's so much of a commitment.
It is.
Like every single one of the books is more than 1,000 pages.
I need to take some vacation from work.
Yeah. The audiobooks are really good though. Like the narrator is very good. He's not Jim Dale, but he's still very good.
Awesome.
So there's that.
Nice.
You know, but it's very, very involved. It's because it's a high fantasy.
Yeah.
So it's
high fantasy, lots of detail.
So much. So, you know, it's worth it. But you also will need a palate cleanser because it's so like doom and gloom and zero levity.
Oh god.
Zero. I'm painting a very good picture.
Yes. Yes. Well, speaking of levity and palate cleansers, not that you needed one from The Hobbit, but our next book is quite a light heart.
Yes.
Lighthearted piece. So
it is.
It's gonna be a good one.
Doing a little YA
love match.
Love match. It's very YA.
Yeah, but it's a good one.
It's good.
Yeah. Oh, just spoiler alert! It's good.
Yeah, spoiler alert. But I guess we're gonna go ahead and sign off now, and don't watch The Hobbit if you haven't seen it. Just watch Lord of the Rings again,
and read books.
Yay! Goodbye.
Bye.